Hello and welcome to another edition of Another Book Review. This week I'm reviewing Mexican Gothic by Silvia Moreno-Garcia. My friend Andrea provided me with a copy of this book, so thank you, Andrea. I'll go very briefly over the author's background, go into a spoiler-free overview of the plot, talk about what I liked about it, what I didn't like about it, who I'd recommend the book to, and finish off with what I'll be reading next time. Silvia Moreno-Garcia is a relatively prolific author. She's been publishing, I think, since roughly 2014. She's published several short story collections as well as novels, and I think is a book reviewer for, at least at one point was reviewed books for the Washington Post. This book I think is something of her coming out or novel or breakthrough novel. Like I said, she had a few novels before this one and actually a couple after this one, but I think this is the one that's been her buzziest novel. And what it is the story of a woman named Naomi who is a member of a relatively well-to-do Mexican family, and she receives a letter one day that her cousin, who has recently been married, is having some problems of a very mysterious nature. And Naomi goes and investigates, and she learns that her cousin, who's married a man named Virgil, who is a member of a family who are originally expatriates from England. They have moved to this relatively rural part of Mexico where they have set up a silver mine, and they live in this really Victorian, titular Gothic house. This kind of house that's seen much better days and kind of slowly falling apart. And the book is really kind of two things. It's Naomi discovering what's going on with her cousin to get to the kind of the bottom of this mysterious letter, and then it's really her having kind of a budding relationship with another character. People have described this as a mashup of Lovecraft and Jane Austen. There are definitely some truth to that. So that's kind of the flavor of the novel. And I thought that the parts that I liked about it, I liked the first 100 pages of Naomi kind of getting into this house and exploring kind of all the creepy nooks of this house. I liked a lot. I liked the character of Naomi. I think she's a very headstrong person. It felt very much like a modern character, even though this book I think is set in the early 1950s. Feels very much like a modern woman in this situation, which I appreciated. And I think that she's not really a damsel in distress or anything like that. I think that the idea of taking this kind of genre that is typically seen in houses in England or houses in America and transporting them to Mexico gives it a different flavor to it that I thought was nice. To see the kind of the way the townspeople react to this house, I thought was interesting. So I thought all that was well done. I think the plot is kind of wishy-washy sometimes. I think there's sometimes where characters do things that are out of character in a way to move the plot along that I didn't love. I think there's a lot of exposition of what kind of the main mystery is towards the end of the book, and it's kind of convoluted there. And I think that when you mash up genres, there are certain genre expectations that don't align. So for instance, in horror and in romantic comedy, you find in most romantic comedies there's some evolution of characters, there's some character growth. In horror, there's usually very, very little character growth because it's not really the main focus of the genre. So going into it with those expectations, you may find yourself not always feeling that those expectations were met because the genres are kind of at odds in terms of character development. It's nothing that like sunk the book for me or anything, but I did wish I got to the end of it. I was kind of wanting a little bit more from the book. I think it ends, and the place where it ends is fine, but I was left kind of a little bit disappointed by it. I thought the parts of it, to me, that were my favorite were the first 100 pages where she's kind of discovering this creepy house and meeting this Virgil's family who are all creepy in kind of different ways. To me, that was the best part. And then the rest of it did seem to kind of lack a propulsion to it. I found myself being able to put it down and walk away from it, and it took me a relatively long time to read. Because the writing, I will say for the writing itself is very easy to read. And I mean that in the best way. You're not really, there's nothing that was, sentence to sentence, I think Silvia Moreno-Garcia, this is the first stuff that I've read, but sentence to sentence, I think she was a very clear writer. I always understood where I was. There's only one or two times where there is maybe there's some things that could have been clearer, but for the overwhelming majority of the part, I thought it was very well written in terms of sentence to sentence writing. And then just I would say, who would I recommend this to? I think if you're someone who likes genre mashups, if you like something that feels unique or different, if you're a fan of kind of Lovecraftian horror, I think that you would enjoy this. I think the horror parts of it to me are done better than the relationship parts of it. That's just my opinion. And I will also say there's kind of it's in a dream. There's a lot of dream sequences in this book. It isn't a dream sequence, but there is parts where there's kind of an implied non-consensual sex, and she's never graphic or overbearing with it, but that may be something that people have a hard time with. So I will just put that out there. If you're one of those people, you may want to avoid this book because of that. I didn't think it went on like super, super long, but if you are someone that may be bothered by that, that's just a heads up there. So that's Mexican Gothic by Silvia Moreno-Garcia. I thought it was okay. There are parts of it I liked about it. There are parts of it I didn't. I wish it maybe ended a little bit stronger. And the genre expectations to me were a little not unaligned for the mashup. Next time I'll be reading Gates of Fire by Stephen Pressfield. I will be on vacation for a couple weeks, so it'll probably be a couple weeks before I put this next video up. But if you have read Mexican Gothic and you felt strongly about it, please let me know in the comments below. You can also, I'll have my Twitter link below there too if you want to follow me on Twitter. Until next time, bye.